Hi everyone, welcome back to Art with Mrs. Bodden. Hopefully you have watched Watercolors 101 so you get a refresh on how to use your watercolors. And today we are going to paint our dancing cow. Now we are going to start with some of our lighter colors first, just so that they can start to dry before we start to add in color around them. So I have my clean water, fairly clean water. I have my watercolors here. I have my watercolors just off to the side of my paper. I do have an extra paper underneath my dancing cow paper, and that's because I know I'm going to get up here around the edges and I will be off my paper and I don't really want to paint my table. So we're going to start by painting his horns because that is going to be our lightest color, which is going to be yellow. So swirl my paintbrush in my yellow a couple of times, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm just going to paint really carefully just his horns. So that's going to be the lightest thing on mine that is going to be painted. I am going to leave my barn, this area right here, white. So that means my barn will need to be red, which is a darker color. So we're going to go for green next. I'm going to paint my trees as well as my grass. Now I want my tree to be fairly dark, so I'm going to not use a lot of water. I'm going to need some, obviously, because it's watercolors, so I want, though, to make sure that I go nice and slow. I don't want to get my watercolors bleeding into my cow. You can probably hear my husband downstairs cleaning up in our living room, making noise with the toys. So, here we go. If I need a little bit more on there, I just get a little bit of water, not much, just a dip, swirl it around in my paint a couple, 3 times, and then paint it onto my paper. Now with watercolors, make sure you do not pick up your paper until it is dry. If you pick it up before it is dry, your water is going to run. When watercolors run, they don't look very pretty. Okay, so there's my tree. Next, I'm going to paint the grass. The grass is going to be a little bit more time consuming because it's a whole lot more area. I'm going to move my paper up a little bit and swirl my brush a little bit to clean it off. Swirl it a couple of times. I'm going to start in the bigger area, and notice I'm using more the side of my brush. Get a little bit of water on there. Spread my watercolor out a little bit more. Side of my brush covers more area, so I can paint a little faster, but notice I'm still painting fairly slow. If you start to get brush strokes or streaks, make sure you're adding water. Just do a quick dip in your water. Don't paint with a dry brush. It doesn't give you much paint. It doesn't give you a pretty picture. So just keep filling in your grass. If you don't have watercolors, you will be doing this in either marker or color crayon or color pencil, whatever you have. Same ideas. Still start with your lightest area first. Go ahead and fill in with some of the darker. Now you're going to notice that I'm going to start to turn my paper. The reason I turn my paper while I paint is so that the area that I am painting is always closest to my paint palette. That way I'm not trying to drag water all over my picture. So see, here I turn my paper, get a little bit more paint on my brush, get up and slow around all your details. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and I will be back when I am done so you can see what it looks like. So you can see how I have painted all of my grass. I am going to let this sit and dry for a few minutes before I add anything else, and I will see you in our next video.